Now we come to some actions. So I took actions based on these 3 challenges. I can't share every action that I've taken over the years because we would be here for much longer than an hour, and unfortunately we don't have that much time. So I'm going to share a couple of actions that I took, and I'm going to show you an example of one of those actions in practice for each of these challenges. Challenge 1, lesson planning. Here is the action that I took. Adapting practice tasks to demand high. Focus on the word adapting. What I did, rather than creating whole new tasks, spending hours trying to create the perfect worksheet, I adapted what I already had based on my learners' needs and to demand high. This is an approach that is really useful, and I suggest that you go and search about it, and I'll share it in the reference list as well. The demand high approach is just a way of teaching so that we're really getting the most from our students. And I especially find with adolescents that this can be tricky because they really need to be pushed cognitively in order to stay engaged. So what did I do? I included less is more. This is a 3 times practice. If you've never heard of 3XP, again, I suggest that you go and explore and research this concept because it's really useful. What this allows us to do is practice maybe a language point 3 times using only 1 task. Thinking about lesson planning, that's much more efficient for us, but it's also very effective for the learning process. And the idea is that if the student practices the same task that's been adapted slightly 3 times, they can build up the level of challenge and really feel a sense of progress. Another thing that I did related to lesson planning is I focused on actions rather than materials. I decided that the lesson is not the book, the lesson is not my worksheets, the lesson is the students, their interactions, and how meaningful that interaction is to them, and also the success, how far they're able to achieve the objectives by the end of the lesson. So what I did was, rather than focusing on cutting out materials, creating perfect worksheets, spending 1 hour looking for the perfect video to contextualize a lesson, what I did instead was in my lesson time, I focused on how are students going to interact in that task? Are they going to be in groups? Can they go to a different room to make it more interesting for them? Also, what kind of feedback am I going to give to them after each practice task so that they can improve the next time that they do it? So I focus on things that you can't see, but they are really important for the lesson. Now I'm going to give you an example of a 3 times practice that I did with my group. This is a task that came from the student book that we use at my language school, Cultura Inglesa. And this was an activity related to synonyms, so how to avoid repetition and how to use synonym and expand vocabulary. So you can see here we have column A, the first column in white and the column in blue. All the students had to do was match the synonyms. So if you look at the first one, trip matches with journey in the blue column. And I gave them some time to do that individually. Then we went to practice 2. Again, this is the same task, the same column of words. What I've done is changed and adapted what students are going to do. So these words, they came from a listening activity, so they were contextualized. They didn't come from nowhere. That's really important to make the language meaningful. But they were looking at these words on word level. Do I understand the meaning? Well, then we wanted to allow students to use these words in context to know that they really can use them appropriately, both in terms of the meaning and how the words are formed and used within a sentence. So I put students into 3 groups, and each group were responsible for creating sentences for each of the synonyms. So group 1, they wrote a sentence for trip, a sentence for journey, a sentence for spot, a sentence for location. And they were able to explore the differences in these synonyms, how they can be used slightly differently. Of course, I was monitoring and giving feedback throughout. The reason that I did this as a group task was to give students a chance to work together, to be collaborative, to ease the anxiety, because this is not a test, we just want them to learn. And also it was time saving, because if I asked all the students to individually write sentences, there just wouldn't be time. So we had to think about that as well. Then we went on to practice 3. Now, practice 3, again, we have the same activity, but it's a much freer activity now. So tell your classmates about a travel experience. And then I gave them a challenge, especially because I had a group of adolescents, students that were younger. They may not make use of the language we're studying. So I gave it them as a challenge to add a bit of engagement as well. So they had to tell about an experience using at least 4 of these. This allowed them to make the language more meaningful and personalized to their situation, which is of course very important as well. As you can see, between each practice, I had a feedback moment. So they really understood the meaning. I gave some feedback if I realized they weren't quite sure on the meaning. Then after practice 2, I gave some feedback on their sentences, on how they formed the sentences, if there were any errors. And feedback 3, I gave feedback on their communication. So this is a great stepping stones for improving their use of language.